Welcome to Time in History. I'm Professor Bill. We celebrate the loudest names, the generals, the presidents, the icons. But history was also shaped by those who stood in the shadows. Scientists whose formulas rewrote reality. Voices that warned the world too early. People who changed everything and were nearly erased. Tonight, we look at the faces you were never taught to remember. London, 1952. In a basement laboratory at King's College, Rosalind Franklin produces an X-ray diffraction image known as Photo 51. That blurred pattern revealed the helical structure of DNA, the blueprint of life itself. The image was shown to other researchers without her full consent. In April 1953, the double helix model was published by others. She was acknowledged, but not celebrated. Why was she forgotten? Because she was a young woman in a male-dominated field, working in an environment where credit followed status, not precision. Today, genetics, medicine, and forensic science rest on that structure. She did not just photograph DNA. She captured the architecture of modern biology. History nearly left her out of it. Harvard Observatory, 1912. Henrietta Leavitt studies faint variable stars on photographic plates. She discovers a precise relationship between their brightness and their distance from Earth. It becomes the measuring stick of the universe. Without her equation, astronomers could not determine how far galaxies truly are. Why was she forgotten? Because she was hired as a computer, not recognized as a scientist. She was paid less, given no telescope, and worked in relative obscurity. Today, every map of the expanding universe traces back to her calculation. She helped humanity measure infinity, and yet history reduced her to a footnote. Vienna, 1847. Dr. Ignaz Semmelweis observes that women in maternity wards are dying from childbed fever at shocking rates. He introduces mandatory hand washing with chlorinated lime. Mortality drops dramatically within months. Why was he rejected? Because his discovery implied that doctors themselves were causing the deaths. There was no accepted germ theory yet. Pride outweighed evidence. He was dismissed and later confined to an asylum, where he died in 1865. Today, hand hygiene is the foundation of modern medicine. He saved lives before science could explain why. The tragedy was not his error. It was society's refusal to listen. Bletchley Park, 1941. Alan Turing designs electromechanical machines capable of breaking the German Enigma code. His work shortens World War II and saves millions of lives. Why was he erased? In 1952, he is prosecuted under British law for homosexuality. His security clearance is revoked. He is subjected to chemical castration. In 1954, he is found dead. Today, modern computing and artificial intelligence are built upon concepts he pioneered. The state condemned him. History later pardoned him. The digital world proves his legacy every second. Berlin, 1938. Lisa Meitner helps interpret the experimental results that reveal nuclear fission, the splitting of the atom. As a Jewish scientist in Nazi Germany, she is forced to flee to Sweden. In 1944, the Nobel Prize in Chemistry is awarded to Otto Hahn for the discovery. Her contribution is not included. Why was she overlooked? Politics, war, and exile severed her from institutional recognition. Nuclear energy and nuclear weapons both trace back to that breakthrough. She refused to work on the atomic bomb. Her science changed the world. Her conscience defined her. NASA, 1962. Katherine Johnson recalculates the orbital trajectory for John Glenn's Friendship 7 mission. Glenn himself asks for her numbers to be verified before launch. Her mathematics ensures the capsule can return safely to Earth. Why was she overlooked? Because she was a black woman working in segregated America, classified as a computer rather than a scientist. Recognition followed astronauts, not the mathematicians behind the scenes. Today, every space mission depends on orbital mechanics refined by pioneers like her. She did not walk on the moon. She calculated the path to reach it. Montgomery, Alabama, March 2nd, 1955. 15-year-old Claudette Colvin refuses to give up her bus seat to a white passenger. She is arrested. Her case challenges segregation months before Rosa Parks. Why was she forgotten? Civil rights leaders believed her youth and background would not make her the right symbol for a national movement. Strategy shaped memory. Her testimony later became part of the Supreme Court case that ended bus segregation. She moved history forward, even if history chose a different face to remember. September 26, 1983. In a Soviet early warning bunker near Moscow, Stanislav Petrov receives an alert. U.S. missiles are inbound. Protocol demands immediate retaliation. Petrov hesitates. He suspects a system malfunction and chooses not to report it as a confirmed attack. The alert was false. Why was he not celebrated? Because admitting the near launch would expose system flaws. Silence protected institutions. The Cold War did not end that night. But nuclear war did not begin either. Sometimes the world survives because one person decides not to press a button. New York City, January 7, 1943. Nikola Tesla dies alone in a hotel room. Decades earlier, he pioneered alternating current systems that power modern cities. His patents shaped electrical engineering and early radio technology. Why did he fade from prominence? Financial disputes, aggressive business rivals, and a preference for experimentation over commercialization left him without institutional backing. Today, the electrical grid runs on alternating current. Wireless transmission traces back to his concepts. He imagined the infrastructure of the modern world. Others built fortunes upon it. Germany, 1918. Fritz Haber receives the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for developing the Haber-Bosch process, a method of synthesizing ammonia. It allows mass production of fertilizers, sustaining billions of lives. Yet, during World War I, Haber also oversees chemical weapons deployment. Why is his legacy complicated? Because the same discovery that feeds humanity also enabled industrial warfare. Modern agriculture depends on his chemistry. He embodies the dual edge of scientific progress, a reminder that discovery itself is neutral. Its use is not. Brussels, October 12, 1915. British nurse Edith Cavell helps Allied soldiers escape from German-occupied Belgium. She treats wounded men regardless of nationality. Arrested and tried by a German military court, she is executed by firing squad. Why did her name fade? Because after the war, governments shifted from martyr narratives to Reconstruction politics. Memory moved on. Her execution outraged the world and strengthened Allied resolve. She believed that compassion had no flag. History remembers the war, but rarely the nurse who stood against it. London, 1854. Cholera devastates the city. Physician John Snow maps the outbreak and traces it to a single water pump on Broad Street. When the pump handle is removed, infections decline. Why was he dismissed? Because the dominant theory blamed bad air, not contaminated water. Challenging consensus meant professional isolation. Modern epidemiology is built on his method of data mapping. He proved that evidence can defeat superstition, but only after resistance fades. United States, 1942. Hollywood actress Hedy Lamarr co-invents a frequency-hopping communication system designed to prevent enemy interception of torpedoes. The patent is filed during World War II. Why was she dismissed? Because she was known for her beauty, not her engineering mind. The Navy initially ignored the invention. Today, frequency-hopping technology underpins Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS systems. She was celebrated on screen, but her invisible signal still connects the modern world. Krakow, 1942. Oskar Schindler, a German industrialist and member of the Nazi Party, begins employing Jewish workers in his enamel factory. Officially, they are essential labor. In reality, they are protected from deportation to death camps. By the end of the war, more than 1,100 lives are saved. Why was his story largely unknown for decades? Because post-war Europe preferred narratives of collective guilt or collective heroism, not morally complicated figures who defied their own regime quietly. He was not a saint. He was not a revolutionary. He used the system to sabotage it from within. Sometimes, courage looks like paperwork and factory ledgers. Munich, February 1943. 21-year-old Sophie Scholl distributes anti-Nazi leaflets at the University of Munich. She and her brother are arrested by the Gestapo. 4 days later, she is executed by guillotine. Why was she long overshadowed? Because post-war Germany initially struggled to confront internal resistance. Narratives focused either on guilt or reconstruction, not on young dissenters who challenged the regime from within. Her pamphlets called for moral awakening in a time of fear. She had no army, no weapon, no power, only words. And sometimes words are the most dangerous resistance of all. Italy, 1859. After witnessing the Battle of Solferino, Henri Dunant is horrified by thousands of wounded soldiers left without care. He organizes civilians to treat the injured, regardless of uniform. His experience leads to the creation of the International Committee of the Red Cross and the Geneva Conventions. Why is his name rarely mentioned today? Because institutions often outgrow their founders. The emblem became global. The man faded into the background. Modern humanitarian law traces back to his outrage. He transformed compassion into an international principle. Karachi, 1970s. Abdul Sattar Eddy begins building what would become one of the world's largest volunteer ambulance networks. He shelters orphans, cares for the abandoned, and buries the unclaimed dead with dignity. Why is his name not widely known outside South Asia? Because he worked outside global power structures and media centers. He sought service, not recognition. Millions were helped through his foundation. He proved that humanitarianism does not require wealth or political office, only relentless compassion. 1940. Polish officer Witold Pilecki voluntarily allows himself to be captured and sent to Auschwitz. Inside the camp, he organizes resistance and smuggles reports to the Allies, detailing mass extermination. Why was he erased from memory for decades? After the war, communist authorities in Poland suppressed his story. He was executed in 1948 by the regime he had opposed. His reports were among the first eyewitness accounts of the Holocaust. He walked into hell on purpose, so the world would know what was happening inside it. Warsaw, August 1942. Educator Janusz Korczak refuses offers to escape the ghetto. Instead, he chooses to accompany the 200 children from his orphanage to Treblinka. Witnesses describe him walking calmly at the head of the line. Why did his story fade outside Poland? Because mass tragedy overshadowed individual moral acts. He had no weapon, no political movement. He chose loyalty over survival. In a world collapsing into cruelty, he remained a teacher to the end. Warsaw, 1939. Pianist Władysław Szpilman performs live on Polish radio as German bombs fall on the city. In 1942, his family is deported to Treblinka. He survives in hiding for years among the ruins of Warsaw. Why did his story remain largely unknown for decades? Because post-war Poland was controlled by a new regime that did not prioritize individual Holocaust testimonies outside official narratives. His memoir was published, then suppressed, then rediscovered. He survived not with a weapon, but with endurance. Sometimes, history is preserved by those who simply refuse to disappear. France, 1943. Noor Inayat Khan becomes the first female wireless operator sent by Britain's Special Operations Executive into Nazi-occupied territory. When other agents are captured, she refuses evacuation and continues transmitting intelligence alone. She is arrested, tortured, and executed at Dachau in 1944. Why was she long overlooked? because intelligence work is secret by nature, and because she did not fit the traditional image of a wartime hero. She was a pacifist by upbringing, a spy by necessity. Her silence under torture saved lives she would never meet. Cleveland, 1916. An explosion fills a tunnel with toxic fumes. Inventor Garrett Morgan uses his own breathing device to rescue trapped workers. Later, he patents an early version of the traffic signal. Why is his name not widely known? Because as a black inventor in early 20th century America, his contributions were often minimized or credited to others. His safety hood evolved into modern gas masks. His signal system shaped traffic control worldwide. He did not just invent devices. He engineered safety into modern life. Warsaw, 1942. Social worker Irina Sendler enters the Warsaw Ghetto using forged medical papers. She organizes the smuggling of Jewish children, hidden in ambulances, toolboxes, even beneath stretchers. Their real names are written on slips of paper and buried in jars, so families might be reunited after the war. In 1943, she is arrested by the Gestapo, tortured, and sentenced to death. The resistance bribes a guard. She escapes and continues working underground. Why was she forgotten for decades? Because post-war politics in Poland buried many resistance stories that did not fit the new regime's narrative. She did not command armies. She saved children. Sometimes the bravest rebellion is simply choosing to protect the powerless. Honolulu, 1915. Chemist Alice Ball develops the first effective injectable treatment for Hansen's disease, then called leprosy. Her method transforms chalmugra oil into a usable medicine, allowing patients to leave isolation. She dies in 1916 at just 24. Why was she erased? A senior colleague later published the method under his own name. As a young black woman scientist, she had little institutional power to defend her work. Her treatment changed thousands of lives. Science moved forward. Her name was left behind. Germany, 1915. Clara Immerwahr, one of the first women in Germany to earn a doctorate in chemistry, opposes the weaponization of science. Her husband, Fritz Haber, oversees the first large-scale gas attack in World War I. Days later, Clara dies by suicide. Why is she rarely mentioned? Because history focused on the architect of chemical warfare, not the voice of protest within his own home. She stood against turning science into a weapon. Sometimes, resistance happens in silence and is remembered even more quietly. New York, 1960. Rosalind Yalow co-develops radioimmunoassay, a method that allows doctors to measure tiny amounts of hormones in the blood. It transforms endocrinology, diabetes treatment, and modern diagnostics. Why was her name not widely known outside medicine? Because laboratory breakthroughs rarely become public stories. Her method became standard worldwide. She did not discover a planet or lead a protest. She changed how we detect disease, quietly, precisely, permanently. Stalingrad, 1942. While Vasily Zaitsev became the legendary face of Soviet snipers, instructors like Alexander Chekhov trained dozens of marksmen who shaped the outcome of urban warfare. Why are their names unknown? Because war remembers symbols, not systems. Sniper schools multiplied across the Eastern Front. Victory was not built by one rifle. It was built by those who trained the hands that held it. 1957. Chien-Shiung Wu confirms experimentally that parity is not conserved in weak nuclear interactions. The Nobel Prize goes to the theorists who proposed the idea. Why was she excluded? Because theory was glorified, and experimental confirmation was seen as secondary. Her experiment reshaped particle physics. She did not just test the rules of nature. She proved they could be broken. England, 1811. Teenage fossil hunter Mary Anning uncovers the first complete ichthyosaurus skeleton along the cliffs of Lyme Regis. Her discoveries reshape early paleontology and challenge traditional views of Earth's history. Why was she overlooked? She was a working-class woman in a male scientific establishment that cited her finds, but excluded her from societies. Her fossils helped rewrite natural history. She unearthed ancient worlds, while history nearly buried her own. United States, 1905. Nettie Stevens discovers that biological sex is determined by specific chromosomes, what we now call X and Y. Her research provides one of the foundations of modern genetics. Why was she overshadowed? Credit drifted toward male colleagues with stronger institutional positions. Her discovery changed biology textbooks forever. She identified the code of life, and history almost coded her out. United States, 1955. Jonas Salk announces a successful vaccine against polio, a disease that had paralyzed thousands of children. When asked who owns the patent, he replies, "The people. There is no patent." Why is he less discussed today than other medical figures? Because eradicating fear does not generate spectacle. It creates relief. Polio cases plummet worldwide. He did not profit from the cure. He gave it away. 1962. Soviet intelligence officer Oleg Penkovsky provides classified information to the West about Soviet missile capabilities during the Cuban Missile Crisis. His data helps U.S. analysts understand the true limits of Soviet deployment. Why was his role obscured? Espionage operates in secrecy. Recognition comes decades later, if at all. He was arrested and executed in 1963. He chose betrayal in the name of preventing catastrophe. History still debates his motives, but not his impact. Yale University, 1961. Stanley Milgram conducts experiments on obedience to authority. Participants are instructed to deliver what they believe are painful electric shocks to strangers. Many comply. Why is his work controversial? Because it revealed how ordinary people can obey harmful orders under pressure. His findings reshaped psychology and our understanding of responsibility. He forced society to confront an uncomfortable truth. Authority can override conscience. Los Alamos, 1951. Mathematician Stanislaw Ulam proposes a breakthrough design that makes the hydrogen bomb technically feasible. His idea becomes central to thermonuclear development. Why is he rarely named outside academic circles? Because the nuclear age became associated with a few public figures, while theoretical contributors remained in classified shadows. His mathematics altered the balance of global power. He helped design a weapon so powerful that it changed diplomacy forever. 1962. Rachel Carson publishes Silent Spring, documenting the environmental dangers of pesticides, like DDT. The book sparks public debate and leads to regulatory change. Why was she attacked at the time? Chemical companies attempted to discredit her as alarmist and emotional. Modern environmental protection traces back to that warning. She did not invent a machine. She changed how we think about responsibility to the planet. 1920s Europe. Ignaz Trebitsch Lincoln moves through politics, espionage, and ideology across multiple countries. His shifting allegiances reflect the instability of the interwar period. Why is he largely forgotten? Because history tends to simplify eras into clear heroes and villains, not ambiguous figures who expose systemic fragility. He did not build nations. He revealed how unstable they were. Sometimes, forgotten figures are mirrors of chaotic times. Germany, 1926. Lotte Reiniger creates The Adventures of Prince Ahmed, one of the first feature-length animated films in history. Years before Disney's Snow White, she pioneers silhouette animation techniques. Why is she rarely credited as the founder of animated cinema? Because global film history later centered around Hollywood. She proved animation could sustain a full narrative. Before mainstream studios, there was a woman cutting paper into moving worlds. 1960s. Maurice Hilleman develops over 40 vaccines, including those for measles, mumps, and rubella. His work prevents millions of deaths worldwide. Why is his name rarely known to the public? Because prevention does not create dramatic stories. It prevents them. Modern childhood vaccination programs depend on his research. He did not cure one disease. He quietly prevented dozens. 1962. Before John Glenn's orbital flight, he requests that the girl check the computer calculations. That girl is mathematician Katherine Johnson. Her equations confirm the capsule's safe re-entry path. Why was she nearly invisible for decades? Because the spotlight followed astronauts, not the black women doing the math behind the scenes. Her calculations helped launch the space age. She didn't leave Earth. She made it possible for others to do so. October 27, 1962. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, a Soviet submarine considers launching a nuclear torpedo after being depth-charged. Launch requires unanimous approval. Vasily Arkhipov refuses. Why was his name unknown for decades? Because the incident remained classified. The torpedo was never fired. History often records wars that happened. It rarely records the ones that were stopped. 1942. Hollywood star Hedy Lamarr co-invents frequency-hopping technology to prevent radio interception. The U.S. Navy ignores it at the time. Why wasn't she taken seriously? Because her public image overshadowed her intellect. Today, that same principle underlies Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. She was marketed as beauty. She engineered connection. September 26, 1983. Soviet warning systems report incoming U.S. missiles. Officer Stanislav Petrov doubts the signal and delays reporting it as a confirmed attack. It is a false alarm. Why was he not celebrated immediately? Acknowledging the mistake would expose flaws in the defense system. No retaliation was launched. Sometimes, the world survives because one person trusts instinct over protocol. Germany, 1918. Mathematician Emmy Noether proves a theorem linking symmetry in physics to conservation laws. Energy, momentum, fundamental constants. Modern theoretical physics rests on this principle. Why was she marginalized? She lectured under male colleagues' names because universities resisted appointing women as professors. Einstein called her a creative mathematical genius. She revealed the hidden structure of the universe, while institutions tried to keep her invisible. Havana, 1881. Physician Carlos Finlay proposes that yellow fever is transmitted by mosquitoes. His theory is dismissed for years. Why was he ignored? Because it challenged dominant medical beliefs and lacked immediate laboratory proof. Later experiments confirm he was right. His idea saved countless lives in tropical regions. Sometimes, truth waits, not because it is weak, but because it is ahead of its time. Paris, 1910. Engineer Henry Coanda tests an experimental aircraft powered by a jet-like propulsion system. During the test, he observes what would later be called the Coanda effect: fluid flow adhering to curved surfaces. Why is he not widely known? Because practical jet aviation matured decades later under different names and nations. Modern aerodynamics uses the principle he observed. He glimpsed the future of flight before the world was ready to build it. Warsaw, 1887. Ludwig Zamenhof publishes the first book introducing Esperanto, a constructed international language designed to reduce conflict between cultures. Why did it not become universal? Because global politics and nationalism proved stronger than linguistic idealism. Yet, Esperanto communities still exist worldwide. He believed misunderstanding fuels division. He tried to engineer peace through language. 1970s. Astronomer Vera Rubin studies galaxy rotation curves and finds that stars move in ways that cannot be explained by visible matter alone. Her observations provide strong evidence for dark matter. Why did she never receive a Nobel Prize? Astronomy discoveries often fall between categories, and recognition lags behind paradigm shifts. Her data reshaped cosmology. She proved that most of the universe is invisible and made the unseen impossible to ignore. 1914. Self-taught mathematician Srinivasa Ramanujan travels from India to Cambridge with notebooks filled with formulas no one can fully explain. His work reshapes number theory and continues influencing mathematics today. Why was he not fully recognized in his lifetime? Because he arrived from the margins of the British Empire, without formal training or institutional backing. He saw patterns others could not. His equations still generate research a century later, 1947. At Bell Labs, John Bardeen co-invents the transistor, the device that makes modern electronics possible. Why is he less remembered than other tech pioneers? Because the transistor became infrastructure, not spectacle. Every smartphone, computer, and satellite depends on that breakthrough. He helped miniaturize the future. Paris, 1896. Henri Becquerel discovers natural radioactivity while studying uranium salts. The finding opens the door to nuclear physics. Why is he less remembered than the Curies? Because later discoveries captured the public imagination more dramatically. His accidental observation reshaped science. He revealed that atoms are not stable, and the modern age began, 1933. Fritz Zwicky observes that galaxies and clusters move too fast to be held together by visible matter alone. He proposes the existence of dunkle materia, dark matter. Why was he ignored for decades? Because the idea lacked direct proof and seemed too radical. Modern cosmology now depends on that concept. He described the invisible long before the world was ready to see it. Kenya, 1977. Wangari Maathai launches the Greenbelt movement, encouraging women to plant trees to combat deforestation and poverty. Millions of trees follow. Why was she underestimated? Environmental activism in Africa rarely received global attention at the time. Her movement connected ecology with human rights. She proved that restoring forests can also restore dignity.